Welcome back to Big Dan's Airguns Review channel. Today we're looking at something a bit different. Don't panic, it's not yet another Springer. It is the Crosman Icon PCP. Now this is a very budget-friendly PCP. We charge £280 for these brand new, including testing as well. And to be fair with you, I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. You know, I've got a big soft spot for budget sort of entry-level PCPs and such like that, especially when they bring interesting stuff to the table and hopefully perform well above what their price point might suggest they'll perform like. So fingers crossed, this should be a good little bit of kit. And as with all our guns, we'll be testing it over the chronograph, we'll be doing accuracy testing and seeing what it's like in the shoulder and such like that as well, so we can get hopefully a fair representation as to what the gun can do. One thing I will mention though that did put a smile on my face was on the box for this, hopefully I'll put a picture up or something somewhere, is the most American sort of tagline that I've ever seen. And no offense by this, I love all this stuff as well. Something along the lines of inspired by or in pursuit of air, liberty and perfection. If that doesn't just make you imagine a screaming eagle when you're reading it, you know what I mean, like USA and all that sort of stuff, nothing will. I love all that stuff. But no, that's fantastic. So now let's put it on the table, let's see what features you get for your money, and then later on we'll see what we think of the Icon. Is it any good? Is it a load of crap? We'll find out, I guess. Okay, so features, what do you get with the Icon? As always, we start off at the rear. You can see you have a rubber recoil pad fitted, as you would probably expect. As we come along, it's also, as you can tell, an ambidextrous stock. So lefties and righties rejoice, everyone can enjoy this rifle. The only thing I will mention is sadly it's not an adjustable cheek piece despite the way it looks on there. I've had a chat with the guys at Rangerite and sadly that is simply, it's just two pieces built into the cheek piece. No idea why it's been done like that, but it's a case of it is what it is. As we come further along, we get to the trigger. This is a two-stage adjustable unit, or at least that's what we're told, but we'll have a bit more of a play with that at the handling section. As we come up, this is why I like this gun, because I think it's going to be a fantastic gun for cadets and such like that, as long as it shoots straight. You've got, much like a sort of bolt action, say rimfire or full caliber centerfire rifle, you can lock the bolt back. You don't get that on many air guns these days, but can you see the sort of locking sort of notch at the rear there? So hopefully you can lock that bolt back. Your safety is also right in front of the trigger blade there, which is a nice easy place to get to it. As we move along, you can see the breech there and come down. You have got a multi-shot magazine and a single shot tray. So she's got potential for target work hopefully, and also some pest control as well, but that obviously all depends on power and accuracy, which we'll get into a little bit later on. The other thing I really like, and again this makes the rifle really idiot proof, is as we come down, can you see the pressure gauge is well out of the way of the barrel, just inside the stock there? Fantastic, that's what I like to see. Again, this is going to be mainly a beginner's gun. Your first thing that you're going to teach people is don't look down the barrel, treat the rifle as though it's always loaded. Many manufacturers, it doesn't matter if they're budget manufacturers or even your big companies, your FXs, such like that, they occasionally put the pressure gauge on the end of the cylinder, right where it shouldn't be. But speaking of the end of the cylinder, with this gun, another nice little feature. The fill probe is built into the rifle, and, Kral, if you're watching this, it's the correct size, so your whip will plug straight on and off you go. Another bit I really like, unlike a lot of the budget guns, she is threaded for 1/2" UNF, so you can chuck a silencer on there, go hunting, or basically make sure you don't annoy your neighbours, essentially. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. You got fibre optic sight on top, and normally you would obviously have a fibre optic rear sight as well, but you can tell we've taken it off just to put the scope on there. But in general, the rifle is absolutely fantastic when it comes to features, considering the price point of the gun. So that's it for features. Now let's actually have a look at these mags and see how you load those, because you know, it could be a little bit fiddly, some can be. Let's get the camera rigged up and let's find out. Okay, so loading the mag. This is absolute child's play, and it's the thing I'm noticing with this gun as well. It seems to live by a phrase that I quite like to go by, which is keep it simple, stupid. It's probably the same thing my mother was thinking when she was having me. Anyways, yeah, keep it simple, stupid. So you got a mag counter on the, or pellet I should say, counter on the side here, which is quite nice and handy. And then all you do to load the mag, you can see you got an arrow here going anti-clockwise. Just give that a little pull on top of the rotor, and then just load your pellets. Nose first, just like that, until you're done. It really is one of the simplest magazines I've ever had to load. That is a really good little bit of kit, it must be said. We'll see how it operates in a second. We put it in the gun and see how we get on in the handling section. So let me fill this up. We'll put the rifle in our shoulder and see what we think. Okay then, so handling, what do we think of the little Crosman Icon? Well, first thing I'm going to say is it's light as a feather. We have got, if I bring that back, hopefully you can see it, the Reximex Silent Force short silencer on there. They do a large one. I thought I'd put it through its paces today, see what it's like, but to be fair with you, the large was completely unnecessary. The short one makes this whisper quiet, which hopefully you'll hear in a second. The other thing I'll say is we are using the Konus Pro 6-24x44. This scope is the one we had on the Patriot the other day, if you saw that video, where she was basically taking a 27 feet-pound FAC spring gun like a champ. It didn't even bat an eyelid at that, so cracking bits of kit to these Konus. You don't get many 100-pound scopes or around that mark that can take that sort of force. So I thought we'd put it on here and see what it thinks of this. And to be fair, this gun's still light as a feather, even with those on there. I mean, look. We're doing the one-hand shake test, which we can't do with too many guns, but with this one we can. The stock is also a good part of that. Obviously it's a nice piece of like synthetic on there, plastic. But at the end of the day, it is designed to be sort of a beginner's sort of knockabout gun. You wouldn't expect walnut to be on a gun for 280 quid. They put most of the emphasis in the features of the thing, which actually is a really good move for an entry-level gun, especially when the features are also around safety. Earlier we mentioned the bolt can be locked back, like with a lot of centerfire rifles and such like that, and some pre-chargers as well. It's a brilliant idea because it makes loading the mag that little bit safer, and you basically in effect got two safeties on the gun. So safety's on the trigger unit, as you can see there. All we're going to do is whack that back, put that in the groove like so. You can see the bolt in there now. And the mag is really, really easy to load. So if you can see that little groove in the mag there, simply line that up with the breech and you'll hear a click when it's in place. There you go, just like that. Then it's simply a case of return the bolt and take the safety off and you're ready to go. So let's give that a little go now and see what she's like. So one thing I will mention before I do, I'm a little bit concerned potentially about the trigger. Reason why I say that is because I believe, but don't quote me on this in case I'm wrong, it's very similar to what you get on the Remington Airacobra and the SMK XS19s and such like that. They're not exactly known for being crisp. They're a bit of a mushy unit, but we'll see what it's like on here. On the Airacobra, it was pants, to be brutally honest, but let's have a go here, because sometimes Crosman stuff, or at least when it's on Crosman gear, as silly as this is going to sound, I find it slightly sweeter for some reason. So let's give this a go. So we've got a sort of a fake first stage. I'm not letting that trick me. I know there's going to be some creep later on. There it is. Right, that's actually not bad. That's way better than what you get on the Airacobra. I'll tell you that here and now. If no one's seen that video of mine yet, just skip to the trigger test section and you'll see me pulling it and pulling it and pulling it and pulling it, and it breaks when it wants to. Doesn't matter what you do to it, it will fire when it's ready. It will not rush itself. This, however, is actually quite nice. Bolt action's a little notchy when you're pulling it back. What I will say though is the magazine itself is really nice and smooth. I thought that was going to maybe some cheaper mags, you can get a little bit of a clunk when you're pushing it through. With the mag, the springs are a little bit too tight and it's sort of not crunching the pellet, but it's putting a bit of force on the pellet there, and it can put a bit of an effect when you're trying to put that pellet in the breech. With this, you probably saw that was really nice and smooth as that went through. So well done, Crosman, on that one. So I'll switch that safety off now. Let's give that another go. We'll do the little finger test, which I think it will be able to do, to be fair. So little finger on the trigger now, and hopefully you'll see maybe a little better if I just pan myself this way a tad. So there's your fake first stage, then the second, creep, creep, off she goes. Straining the little finger slightly, it's not quite perfect for that, it's not that light yet, but it is an adjustable unit, so you can have a little play with it and maybe loosen it up and make it that little bit more responsive. Overall, it's a nice little gun to shoulder. One thing I will say is you are reaching with your leading hand a little bit, because otherwise your hand goes on this area where the pressure gauge housing is, and feels just a bit weird on your palm, but it's not too bad at all. One thing I will say, the cheek piece is a bit odd in the way that it's, if you can see that, it's squared off almost here, which is a little bit strange on the cheek, but then to be fair, to its credit, I have put mounts on this that are, if anything, a little bit too big. Ideally, my head should be down here somewhere, at which point it's still a little strange, but it's not too bad at all. Overall, handling wise, I think that's rather nice. Let's give that put another pellet through there. The other thing I'm going to say is how quiet is this little gun with that silencer on there too. Let me move up a bit, point it in a safe direction. Listen to this. The main sound is, if anything, the hammer bounce coming from the gun, and a little bit of bounce from the cocking bolt itself. But again, bear in mind the price of the rifle, and even that clunky bolt action's already smoothing out, if you can see that there. Bear in mind the price of the rifle, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Let's give that another go. I think that's a sweet little gun, you know. The more I shoot it, the more I'm starting to fall in love with it. But, again, might only be quiet because it's only doing about 6 feet-pounds. We don't know, do we? So, let's whack the chronograph out, and let's look for shot count, consistency, and, of course, power. Okay then, so accuracy testing time. We know the Icon's performing well through the chronograph. We filled the rifle to about 2,700 PSI on the gauge, which is roughly where it seemed to behave itself the best. So we got a few shots at 11 feet-pounds to play with before it then gently starts falling down. So there's a dear little bit of wind, there's a gust occasionally picks up. It's an absolutely stunning day, it really is. If I pan down here, can you see the way there's sort of like a mist coming up around the fields down the bottom? I wish you was here with me today, genuinely. Right then, so table set up. I'm going to be resting off of that when we do the first groups. We're going to be doing some pellet testing now, and I'll put a picture up of the pellets that we're using in the bottom right hand corner, or somewhere, a description, so you know what we're putting through. Hopefully it won't drag the video on for too long, but we haven't done this for a while, so I thought we'd chuck it in there with the Icon and see what it likes and what it absolutely hates. So then, 27 yards. Let's see how we do. Okay, so accuracy testing's over and done with. We'll get the crappy ones out of the way first. So Spitfire domes and RWS Superfield, really not much to talk about there. As we come up, Barracuda match. This is kind of on its own because it's not a terrible group, but it's not exactly a brilliant one either. As we come through, the main strong pellets that we have, silencer's getting involved. The main strong groups that we have are the JSB heavies, where we do have 2 shots going low, but that's 4 in a tiny little cluster there. Just to elaborate, that's my little fingernail next to that cluster. Not bad for a 280 quid gun. Again, it could just be a case it needs to lead in, to be honest, and run in. The QYSs were okay, a little bit scattered though, and Superdomes were also looking really good, but I think we had 2 shots low and 1 off to the left. I don't know if we accidentally did 7 shots with that where I got ahead of myself. No idea. As we come up, Webley Mosquito Express, again through the ball, but the only issue is we had 2 wild flyers. I'm happy to admit maybe I pulled one, but the other one I'm really not quite so sure about. As we come across though, the most consistent group is the BSA Gold Star, but I don't really want to discount the JSB heavies. I want to see what happened there, because I've got a feeling when it leads up to either one of these, I've got a feeling, I don't know, I think JSB heavy could be the best group. So what we're going to do to see is we're going to move on, and sorry, I'm just being attacked by a hornet at this moment in time. If you can see him, that beautiful devil. What we're going to do, we're going to move on, and we're going to use the JSB Exact Heavies and also the Gold Stars for our next accuracy test. So with our pellets chosen, there's a bloody bumblebee attacking me now. With our pellets chosen, let's move on to the next segment of our accuracy testing and see how the little budget banger does. Okay, so accuracy testing time at 45 yards. The wind is atrocious, if you can see that up there, and no doubt I'm going to be buffeted by it in a second as well. There's the target set in place there. Today, if you don't mind, I will be doing it inside the cover of the barn because it has bucketed it down all day long. It looks like it's going to do it any second, and literally as I speak, hopefully you might be able to see it, it is spotting with rain right now. So let's see how fast we can get this done. 45 yards, Gold Star versus JSB Heavy. Let's see who comes out on top. So the final verdict of the Crosman Icon. Apologies if this review seems a little rushed. It's basically because we do have some serious time constraints. I'll say it right in a second, won't I? Time constraints with this video. Basically, as we may have mentioned earlier, due to the weather, to be honest, it's not going to be very nice very soon, so we had to get it done now. Overall though, when it comes to performance, the gun is a good little shooter. As you can see here, the main cluster at 45 yards, even in this incredibly atrocious wind. If I come up now, it's, funnily enough, as soon as I pick the camera up, it's back down a little bit, but hopefully you can see things moving up there and around. Yeah, we weren't getting much help today. But the main cluster here of 5 shots, or we've got 3, sorry, in there, is under a 5p piece, and that's 45 yards, bear in mind. And we've got 2 flyers here, literally pellet on pellet flyers. I don't know if I get points for that or what that is, but yeah, that was possibly the wind, could have been me, who knows. Now we can finally tell as well, because I don't believe we had a 5p piece when we measured this to begin with. Does our 27 yard group sit under the 5p piece? Yes, it does. So again, cracking little gun when it comes to accuracy. And the other thing that you need to bear in mind is this gun needs a lot of potential, a lot more running in anyway, because it's only had the pellets through it, what you've seen on test. We haven't tested it. Actually, no, I'm lying to you slightly. We did a shot count test because somebody asked us how many shots you get from one of these on our Facebook page. So have a look at Big Dan's Airguns on there, and any questions at all, get in touch, we'll help any way we can. But we did a shot count test on this gun, and so basically it's had that through it as well, about 100-ish shots off memory. But it's a well-spec'd little gun as well to go with the performance. For instance, and there's lots of little things, for instance, that I really like. The pressure gauge is in a sensible place. They didn't just glue it on the end like some guns are. The fill probe is built in and it's the correct size. It has, as you can tell, got proper 1/2" UNF, which is a major leg up over some of the Chinese guns that will be rivaling this, such as your PR 900s. Unless they've changed it, there was always a metric thread, whereas with these you have got proper 1/2" UNF. And you do get good bits of kit with the gun too. The magazine is nice and slick to use. The single shot tray is also real easy to use. It just clicks straight in and off you go. And the trigger, yes, it's the same budget unit you see on a lot of guns, but it's actually, as silly as it sounds, one of the better ones that I've used. You can turn it into quite a nice little lightweight trigger unit. The only thing I would say, as with all triggers, don't over adjust it. If you screw the little adjustment screw all the way in, make sure to back it out a turn, maybe a bit more, a bit less. That way it won't make it too sensitive. As with all triggers, over adjusted, sometimes you can even see they'll fire on their own and such like that, so be careful with it. There's a couple of nitpicks I got with it. I think the cheek piece is weird, to be honest. If you can see that there, it's square, which I'm not the hugest fan of, but I was getting used to it in the end. And the fact basically that it has got that trigger unit, but at the end of the day you can do things with it, and I don't take this for granted. Hopefully Will will maybe come along if he sees this, or I might email him when this video is uploaded just to ask him, but hopefully, or I'm thinking, one of Will's triggers from Woodfield GCP might go into that, and what a cracking little gun that would make this as well. But she's full power, she's got a good amount of shots at full power, around 40-50 shots off memory in the sweet spot, but you've got, I think, was it 80 odd shots, 90 shots before it starts bleeding below 10 feet-pound. What a lot of gun for 280 quid. Again, slightly rough around the edges perhaps, but at the same time, I don't think you can complain for the money. Anyways, a massive thank you to Range Right for sending us this gun for a review. It really does mean a lot. They're the importers of Crosman, Crowell, you name it. And for any more information on the Crosman Icon, make sure to get in touch with us at bigdansairguns.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.